Hey, please come on over. Together, let's go to bed. She hadn't spoken anything like that to me in 5 years. I sat down next to her carefully. She offered me a big smile wrapped in the warmth I hadn't felt in a long time when I looked directly into her face. For a brief while, I was genuinely pleased. I realized that I truly wanted to spend my entire life with her. I did consider that, but in the end, I was the one who caused our separation. I suppose I ought to talk about that first. I was 30 when it all started. I was simply another employee at an office. I worked hard and did my job when I got to work, but I wasn't getting promoted very quickly. Even an ordinary person like me once met by coincidence, and that someone was Jessica. Jessica and I met at work. We began going out to eat together because she was a high achiever at a client company, and eventually we began dating. Jessica, on the other hand, was focused, capable, driven, and obviously headed for success. When she was fully engaged in her task, she was stunning. Jessica kept working even after we got married and had a kid. In fact, she grew even more involved in her work and was promoted to manager after delivering birth. She didn't, however, disregard our house in any way. She did a good job of juggling motherhood and housework. But it hurt me to watch Jessica handle things so gracefully. I was unhappy to see her succeed at work and at home, earning more than me. I was merely jealous of Jessica, and I knew it. But I was unable to control my negative emotions, so I turned to drink as a way out. Maybe it would have been better if I'd been honest with Jessica about how I felt and my shortcomings, but I was too prideful to do that. Jessica, on the other hand, appeared confused and unsure of how to handle my heavy drinking. Jessica and I stopped talking to one another and drifted apart. We were divorced when Jessica and I were 35 years old, and our daughter Lily was 5 years old. Lily accompanied her mother. It made sense. A man like me, who turned to alcohol for solace, couldn't possibly be a parent. I could feel the house getting bigger and quieter after my wife and child left. After the divorce, Jessica accepted a job overseas that she had previously turned down and departed right away. Lily naturally accompanied her. I did not realize how much I had neglected my family for booze until I was left on my own and lonely. As a small atonement, I gave up alcohol. After that, all I had to do was work, so I gave it my all, but I didn't get much done. I continued to be an ordinary worker. When Jessica got back from her trip, she promised to let me visit Lily. All I could do was wait for our next meeting to happen. Would Jessica allow me to visit this man who had turned to booze, I wondered. I don't think she wants to see my face at all. Despite my knowledge that I should give up on Jessica, because I was the one who destroyed our family, my affections for her persisted even after the divorce. After the divorce, my daughter Lily called me out of the blue 5 years later. Even though I had been paying child support, we hadn't communicated or met. I hadn't heard her voice in the previous 5 years. Naturally, Lily's voice sounded older than my memory of her at 11. Furthermore, when she added, "There's someone I want you to meet," I was taken aback. Jessica doesn't seem to be attending the meeting that we had planned to have again. I was taken aback when Lily abruptly mentioned that she wanted me to meet someone after they had both returned from a trip overseas. It was all shocking to me. The surprises didn't stop there, though. When I got to the family restaurant where I was meant to meet Lily, the adult Lily was seated next to an unfamiliar man in his 30s. That's when I understood that man had to be the one she wanted me to meet. He's undoubtedly Jessica's new partner and her new father figure. He had a nice tan and appeared to be a kind man. I admit it, I still feel something for Jessica. I don't know what to do, and there's no way I can speak with Jessica's new partner. At the restaurant's entryway, I stood motionless. But both Lily and the man saw me. "Dad, come on over." Lily gave a hand motion. She must have believed that I was trying to find them. The man seated behind Lily gave me a small nod. I did not move. That's when I pivoted on my heel and took off. I heard Lily yelling, "Dad," from behind me, but I just hurried out of the restaurant without stopping. I know that sounds pitiful, but I simply couldn't bring myself to go see Jessica's partner right now. Jessica's new partner, though, moved very quickly. I was apprehended quickly. We went to a nearby park when Lily caught up, and she let out a loud sigh. "You're completely wrong, Dad. My father is not this man. Mom works with him. He's married and has 5 children." The fact that he wasn't Jessica's boyfriend astonished me more than the fact that he had 5 kids. Their house must be really energetic. "Hello, I'm Tom. Nice to meet you. We cultivate crops. Jessica has lent us land and farm equipment, which has been a huge assistance with our farm. I also occasionally teach her about farming." I told him I wanted to see my dad today, and he drove me here. The amount of knowledge was nearly too much for me to handle. What was Jessica's method of meeting someone in a farming community? Then Lily disclosed a startling truth. Mom is now lending a hand at the farm. She left her former position. Tom expanded on his remarks. After suffering a breakdown due to excessive labor during her foreign assignment, Jessica came back to the United States 3 years ago. Tom was someone Jessica's parents knew. When Jessica said she wanted to leave the corporate and city life behind, he had assisted her in finding a home in the country. In addition, he assisted her in finding employment on his farm so she could get money by giving her land and farm equipment. He was an ally to Jessica and Lily. I was ignorant of all of this. Perhaps she didn't want to depend on me even in times of need, in which case I would have assisted if she had told me. Lily firmly stated, "My mom is the person I wanted you to meet," as I was considering this. I heard Mom mention that she wanted to apologize to Dad while she was on the phone with Grandma. Please forgive me for what? I'm not sure, but she stated she wants to apologize, but is unsure of how to do so at this time. Mom hasn't been feeling well recently, and I believe she's worried about your relationship. Are you going to meet her? I was to blame for the divorce. Jessica doesn't need to apologize to me. In fact, this is ideal. I see Jessica once more. I promised Lily I would drop by Jessica and Lily's place shortly. My heart was pounding as we agreed on a meeting time and then said our goodbyes. I've been living a life of regret ever since the divorce. I hadn't even managed to apologize for starting the divorce back then when I was so drunk. I decided that when we met, I would give her a sincere apology. That's what my innermost decision was. The day I was supposed to go see Jessica and Lily's place came around fast. After boarding an express train and subsequently a local train, the view outside changed from bustling city life to peaceful rural areas in less than 60 minutes. It still shocked me that Jessica, a once vibrant career lady, was helping out on the country farm. Upon arriving at the specified address, I noticed a conventional home encircled by open spaces. Lily was the only one to meet me because she had informed me that Jessica wouldn't be back till the evening. All that remained now was to bide our time till Jessica returned. Greetings from our home to yours. Naturally, there were no cafes or coffee shops to pass the time. Jessica arrived, and Lily and I waited while we stared out at the enormous fields, mountains, and prairies. Lily abruptly collapsed into a blade of grass. "Hey, please come on over. Together, let's lie down." That was the first time Lily had said something similar to me in 5 years. I sat down next her carefully. With a big smile on her face, she gave me a warm smile that I hadn't felt in a long time. It was a happy moment that surrounded me. I never imagined spending another day with Lily on this level. Is this how every day feels like today? I couldn't help but hope Lily and I could spend more days like this. That concept naturally occurred to me. Time seemed to fly by while Lily and I were unwinding, and then I heard Harry's voice call. I turned to face the voice as I sat up. Jessica was there, someone I hadn't seen in 5 years. She had on work clothes that I had never seen her wear before, and her skin was suntanned and makeup-free. She used to dress in more ornate ways, but she now appeared younger and healthier. Jessica came outside, and Lily went in. She seems to desire some alone time with us. "Why are you here?" Jessica inquired. Lily wanted to meet, so she came over. I told Jessica that Lily was coming with Tom instead of bringing up the bit about her wanting to apologize. Is that accurate? After all, she was eager to visit her father. However, did it surprise you that we reside in a rural area? To be honest, I was. I never thought you would be a farmer or live in the country. Jessica smiled for the first time that day at what I said. Me neither, but I grew weary of going to work every day. I only desired to see some vegetation. I see, but it's amazing that you've taken up farming as a job. Not really. I started out knowing nothing at all, and I have only lately been able to handle my own field. I still assist Tom and other farmers to pay my living expenses. She must have found living abroad more difficult than I had thought if she would take to such extreme measures to stay away from going back to her corporate job. When things at work got hard, I apologized for throwing all the parenting on you. Do the payments for child support suffice? Do I need to raise them? I don't mind, you know. No, it's all right. To be honest, I hadn't dealt with the child support. I considered putting money toward her future educational expenses. Are you still with the same company? Jessica might have recalled my struggles at work, how I got jealous of her, and how I ended up drinking. I am, indeed. After the divorce, I made an effort to immerse myself in my profession, but I still go to work every day like any other employee and do my job. That alone is incredible. That was the time I wanted to apologize to you. I didn't understand why you started drinking. I even believed you ought to give it more sometimes. However, having experienced my own breakdown at work, I could relate to the need to run away. When work gets tough, it gets terrible, and it feels like a part of life. I apologize for not supporting you, listening to you, or being there for you. At what Jessica had said, I shook my head. It's not that the work is difficult. It's that I felt horrible comparing myself to someone with your level of ability. I know it's pathetic. You were so cool and so productive that I felt bad for you. I regret not being able to tell you how I really felt, but my small pride got in the way. Jessica paid close attention to everything I said. So you had that feeling. I regret not listening to you more when we were first married. Perhaps I was too quick to write you off as weak because I was too preoccupied with myself. No, I was the one who neglected our family and started drinking. It was not at all your fault. I have always wanted to say I'm sorry. I sincerely apologize for what I did at the time. We talked about our sentiments and then enjoyed dinner together with Lily, using the veggies from Jessica's garden. There are benefits to country living, but there are also many drawbacks. But Jessica seemed to be enjoying all of the difficulties, as she grinned while describing her challenges with us over dinner. She had not the smallest sorrow about quitting her work. I clung to my job so much, but once I let go, it turned out not to be such a big deal after all, I replied. Lily, observing what I had said, proposed, "Dad, why don't you come live here too?" Jessica and I looked at each other shamefully and couldn't stop laughing. I started going to Lily and Jessica's house on the weekends after we were reunited. But one day, Jessica was helping a farmer named Tom, and I got a call from him telling me that Jessica had been hurt. I'd hastily left work and made my way to Jessica. It appeared like someone had broken into the residence. Luckily, the damage was limited to a push-related fracture. That it wasn't more serious was a relief. After prompt assistance from neighbors, the burglar was apprehended. When Jessica saw that I had left work early for her, she became upset. "Sorry, it's not a big deal." "Not at all. That's severe enough, getting broken in by a burglar and breaking a bone," I retorted. I spent some time helping Jessica with chores and taking care of Lily at her place using my paid leave. Even though Jessica's injury wasn't ideal, They had a great time spending the days together from dawn to night. Even though it was a lot more labor-intensive than I had anticipated, I gave farming a try at Jessica's property. Jessica and Lily teased me for being sore all over, but their smiles made it seem like a fortunate break. Lily started crying when it was time for me to go. "Dad, please don't go." Lily begged me to stay with her, and I said, "We'll be together starting next month." "What?" she questioned. "Why are you coming to stay again?" At her inquiry, I grinned. "In fact, I've been considering moving back in with Mom and you. Is that acceptable?" Lily's eyes shone, despite the fact that she had been crying minutes before. She was ecstatic and shouted, "Really?" As a matter of fact, I had resumed dating Jessica not too long ago. In addition, we had discussed moving back in together, and I had given notice to my employer that I would be leaving in 2 months. However, I requested to move my resignation ahead since I was worried about the safety of 2 women living alone after the burglary happened. I'll be back at the company only to hand things off. I'm going to be moving in with Jessica and Lily next month. In an effort to set up chances for local income, I have also been spending my weekends visiting other farmers and agricultural cooperatives. We were going to surprise Lily, but her tears had other ideas. It was no longer shocking, but Lily's happiness made it all worthwhile. Jessica and I got remarried 6 months later, and now the 3 of us live together as a family. There isn't a convenience shop close by, and our income isn't what it was when I worked for a corporation. Although it may seem inconvenient, we are content to relish the simplicity and have the mental room to do so. Sharing our everyday experiences and eating meals as a family is the most important thing. Knowing one other's shortcomings by now, Jessica and I have made the decision to be honest with each other about everything and work together to find answers. As a pair, we talk about our relationship frequently. Jessica is the more experienced farmer that I am studying from in the hopes of becoming as knowledgeable as she is. The days of being constrained by small-minded pride and feeling inadequate seem like a long time ago. I am resolved to value my family more than ever this time around because the ties that I once believed to be irreversibly severed have been restored.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. "What kind of training are you giving your subordinates?" Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed, I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.